This summer's got to change here. One of my favourite Sunderland memories is obviously losing a game. that puts it into perspective, doesn't it?
Welcome to another episode of Lose to Win, the podcast with me, Jack. We've got Josh, and we've also got Super Tim with us today. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Evening, gents.
Yeah, very good, thank you. Good to be back again, and I'm really excited this week for our guest, Tim, because we've gone back and forth on mentioning getting you on, haven't we, a few times in the previous week. So
yeah, finally got me on after a few weeks of threatening. I think I'd had some goals I wanted to achieve before I came on. So
fair enough, indeed. Yeah. Well, how have you both been? How's your week's been?
Busy, mate. Really busy. I'm up in Cardiff at the moment for the second night in a row, seeing lots of customers. I've got a real condensed area of customers here, and it's always good to see them all at the same time rather than back and forth. So I'm laid up in a hotel in Cardiff, which hasn't been too bad. Eaten well, exercised, free swimming and gym included in the hotel. So making the most of that. Going to hit the gym again early morning. I was inspired by Tim yesterday. We were chatting about getting you on, and you said that you're just going to do a quick 5k for lunch. And I was like, right, better get myself to the to the treadmill. Or I actually did a bit of treadmill, bit of bike, and a bit of weight. So yeah, you inspired me this week already, mate.
good to hear. Yeah, my week's going good. Up until 10 minutes ago when Huddersfield took the lead against Sunderland. So that's kind of put a bit of a damper on the night. But in control of calorie consumption. Like Jack's just said, I try and get out on my dinner hour and do a bit of walking around the work in Southampton Docks. So I try and get out and have a walk around the town centre when I can.
Oh, nice.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah.
But you get all sorts out and around Southampton town centre, don't you?
Yeah, it's it's like an enlarged Winton High Street.
All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay. All right then. If it's right with you lads, then we'll run into the roundup for this week at Man v Fat Bournemouth.
Yeah, let's do it.
And then we'll come back to you, Tim, for some questioning. So this week we're kind of back on track. We had a bit of a lull last week collectively. I think we lost weight we gained weight as a league last week collectively. But after that disappointing stumble, we're once again losing weight. I think this week it's 23.4 kilos as a league, which is right on the kind of money, the kind of area we're looking for, more than 20 kilos. So really good win. So 41 players, approximately 75% of attendees, moving the scales in the right direction, which is a pretty good bounce back. And it shows really that last week was a bit of a blip, not kind of a consistent run into the Christmas period, which is always a bit of a worry as a league. I'm sure you guys agree.
Definitely.
So that's a pretty good one. But we know that there's a Christmas coming up, so there's going to be a mixed bag. And if we can keep on the pace we have done, then we'll probably have our best season ever, I would have thought.
Looking that way.
Yeah, I was going to say. In terms of the pitch and the league stuff, so Purples, you won the top of the table clash on the pitch, didn't you? By defeating the Greens 5-3, but then...
No, yeah, that's it. Yeah, sorry.
We're edged out by the narrowest of margins on the scales as they were taken into account. Well done, Tim and Team Green there.
I think Jack needs to take credit for that, actually.
Well, yeah, I do in more way than one, actually. Funny enough, Tim. So Tim's referring to his weigh-in. So he was very shy of his milestone with a little bit of clothing on. And he was, I'm not sure. And Liam's daughter was in the room, and he was like, I don't want to drop trout while there's a child in the room and all this. So I was like, don't worry, mate, we'll divert our eyes, do it. And I encourage you to do it, and you managed to hit your milestone. More frustratingly, and looking back on it, how annoyed I am about it, is I maintained, and it was my hat-trick week. And if I had just lost that tiny bit more and got a loss, we would have drawn overall. But it's all ifs, buts and ands, isn't it? But it's I've got no problem with with supporting you in that circumstance, mate, and well done. I must admit, I did tell the team that I encourage you to do it and reweigh yourself and be as light as you can, and you did it, mate. So fair play.
Apologies for the dodgy Y-fronts.
I didn't even look. Thankfully, you didn't put me off for dinner.
Elsewhere, if you don't mind, the Whites were seconds away from their first pitch win of the season, leading a pulsating match 3-2 before the Reds snatched a crucial last gasp equaliser. Reds' haul of weight loss goals, however, turned that into an overall win. Blues and Oranges were the other winners, defeating Blacks and Yellows respectively. Every team this week lost more weight than they gained, which is good going, with Reds and Greens managing clean sweeps. So that's 6 out of 6 and 7 out of 7 for your Greens respectively.
Amazing.
This is the third time, by the way, Greens have achieved 100% losses in the last 4 weeks.
Wow.
Something I actually was pointed out to me at the session on Friday. So a phenomenal collective achievement there, by the way, crushing it, absolutely crushing it. And we'll come to this later on.
Boys are doing well.
Yeah,
you must still have a few in last man standing then, Tim, yeah?
Yeah. We got a few in.
Yeah. He's not giving it away. Yeah. I did say the number last week. I don't suppose that's changed then. So you have to backtrack, Jack, and listen to that one. What was I going to say? So 12 hat-trick heroes this week. Unfortunately, I won't read them all. Apologies, but well done, lads. And 3 milestone men to celebrate this week. So Ed Dowling, still a few weeks into his Man v Fat journey, reached his 5% milestone, while Tom Marks hit his 15%. However, our main man of the pod this week, Tim, went even better, joining the elite 20% club. Well done, mate. And well done to all 3. Fantastic milestone men this week.
Brilliant work.
Really keep it going. It's been amazing, really. I should just say a special mention to Dave of the Greens as well, who made his way back into maintenance after a long period hovering just the wrong side of the line. We tend to talk about hitting maintenance as if it's the end of the journey, but in many ways, staying at a healthy weight is an even bigger challenge than getting there in the first place. So a huge congratulations to Dave for sticking to the task and making it back into the promised land.
He's worked really hard for that.
Yeah, really I know as well. We talked about it a few weeks ago as well, just back and forth, so amazing. You can say more about it than me, Tim. So
he's a trooper, isn't he?
It's been a consistent loss for him every week.
Yeah,
every week he's lost. I think apart from, it might have even been the first one where he didn't, where the pair of us had been away on holiday, and we were both had 50 pence, 20 pence bums at the weigh-in, and just because we thought we were going to be getting an own goal, but since then smashed it.
Amazing.
Yeah. Amazing work. One thing with Ed on the purples did make us laugh when he was walking out. He was like, "Yes, I can get myself some new boots now." The missus said, "Once I hit my first milestone, I can get myself some new boots." And his brother, Tomo, his brother, was like, "Have you narrowed it down?" He's like, "Yeah, to about 35 pairs." So expect a new pair this week. He might be still picking which ones he wants, but yeah, that was quite a cool little incentive. His missus said he can have some new boots when he hits his first milestone, so that's pretty cool.
Nice. That's a good way of looking at it, actually. I didn't think about that. I'm a bit of a sucker for boots as well. If I could just turn it there.
You were selling a pair last week, weren't you?
Well, I've still got them to sell. Do you want them?
I don't. I just bought some new ones last week.
Knock off Nige. Bloody Josh flogging some dodgy boots.
One of our players is selling a pair as well because he prefers trainers. So
yeah, fair enough. All right, I'll have to
find somebody else.
Anyway, back to the thing. So, I should say there's no additional last man standing goals this week. We had 3 players drop out, leaving 24 remaining. 9 grace weeks are intact with 2 used this week. So we're still not down to the 20 that would give us extra points. And as Tim tried to subtly avoid, there's quite a few left in some teams. So another goals haul could come this week potentially. Team of the week. So Tom Davey, after a couple of weeks out, leads the team of the week. well, it's just 1 week, I think, maybe off. He hit a colossal, I mean, on 5.2 kilos.
Jesus.
Which is insane, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
5.2 kilos.
That's nearly a
It's-
stone.
Yeah, no, it's
what
great.
I was just working it out. I was just going to Google it.
Yeah, just honestly, it's not
2.2
far off.
pounds to a kilo.
Yeah, it's not far off a stone. So just unbelievable in
Very
2
good.
weeks, really, 2 or 3 weeks weight loss, that is. But
Great to have
that's
him
not
back
to
too.
diminish it in any way. Yeah, it's great to have him back. And so
Definitely.
yeah, particularly as there's so much less of him to welcome back in general. So we've got the team of the week. So Tom Davey leads it with 5.2. Then the next we got Nick Copeland with 2 kilos. Tim, yourself, you hit 1.9 after the extra nudge from Jack. Jesus hit 1.8. Jez hit 1.4. And Phil hit 1.3. I think generally that's the roundup for this week.
You might have missed somebody scoring a hat trick on the pitch.
Oh, all right. I
Against
mean,
Tim.
it was a dodgy hat trick.
You didn't
Jack.
even see it. You admitted you didn't even see it. So you can't even
I didn't see
start.
the second goal, but I was told it took a wicked deflection. And
I think Tim
therefore
might have seen it.
it wasn't.
I didn't. That's why I went in. I had to give you one because you give us 3 on the scales.
I had to. My problem was I had to make up for not fucking losing. I was desperate to score, and then just one of those nights where everything I touched seemed to go in. So it was good. Good to win on the pitch, but not on the scales, unfortunately.
Anyway, Tim, we have you on the pod. Let's have a bit of a chat then. So, Jack, I know you generally tend to lead with some little icebreakers.
Yeah. So you might be giving it away with the accent, although a lot of people assume you support the other team in stripes. But do you want to start off with which team do you support from the northeast?
Sunderland.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
And who is your favourite player, past or present?
Oh, well, this is going to sound really twisted, because my all-time favourite player isn't actually a Sunderland player.
Oh, okay.
Is an ex-Newcastle player.
Oh, wow.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Gaza. Paul Gascoigne's my all-time favourite footballer. But
fair enough.
Favourite Sunderland player, probably Jermaine Defoe or Lee Cattermore.
Fair enough.
Lee Cattermore's a nasty bastard.
The funny thing is, Dan said Jermaine Defoe, and if for Spurs.
Yeah, and as I was listening to him, I was thinking, because he was talking about all the good he's done and everything, but he didn't mention anything about the Bradley Lowry.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Part of Jermaine Defoe, which this poor little lad, I don't know if for those of you who aren't aware of it, he had this really rare form of cancer and went through all sorts of treatment for it, and basically Jermaine Defoe befriended him and the family and spent a lot of time with him in hospital and helped raise a lot of cash and for the operations that he needed. And I mean, unfortunately, poor little Bradley died a few years ago now. But yeah, that's just one of the reasons why I like him. I used to think it was the complete opposite, all because of once when he was playing for Spurs, he broke our keeper's arm. He broke Craig Gordon's arm, and it looked deliberate. So when you hold on to like one opportunity where one player just does something to really wind you up, and that sticks.
Yeah,
that kind of stuck with me for Defoe until he came to us and saw different parts of him.
Yeah, fair enough. Absolutely, yeah. I have to
admit,
sorry, I do remember that, but I didn't think of that myself either when I was thinking of Jermaine Defoe. So, but yeah, amazing.
Am I right in thinking that Defoe had some trauma in his family as well? I think maybe lost a cousin, stabbed cousin, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I think off the top of my
exactly
head. So he's I've always liked him. A great character again. Although being Spurs, I've got no issue with that. I think he's a top bloke. And tell me if I'm wrong, but was it those fucking wankers that were mocking the Sunderland fans recently with pictures of him?
There was 2 brothers at Sheffield Wednesday, and it was basically holding up his phone, having the picture of Bradley on the phone. He's he's been suspended sentence.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, like
Okay,
obviously nobody needs our opinion on it, but pair of pricks, and they deserve everything they get. And
He's lost his job for it as well, I think.
Fucking right, yeah. And I hope he loses his family and everything else as well. The horrible cunt. So that's my opinion anyway. So
you've just lowered yourself to him now, there, Jack.
Yeah, I know. Sadly, I have. But I was trying to be diplomatic and relatively calm about it. But as you well know, as a father, it just hits home a little bit hard, doesn't it? That sort of behaviour, and he can rot in hell for all I care.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even expect that from them up the road, let alone a Sheffield team or anything. So
fair enough. Okay, on to lighter things. Obviously, you support them because of where you've grown up and where you're from. But is there any kind of standout memory that made you fall in love with Sunderland, or kind of can you remember your first time you went to watch them, anything like that?
Yeah, the whole family, bar my brother, are Sunderland fans. My dad failed as a father and let him be a Newcastle fan.
I was expecting you to say that as well, and I was like, no, can't believe this.
Yeah. So it was ingrained into me. I remember my first game was at Roker Park in I think it must have been about 1988, at home to Stoke City, I think it was. It must have been around winter time, because I remember it being dark pretty soon after kickoff, and just the lights coming on and the pitch being so green, and the noise every time Sunderland just got the ball and went forward, it was just a huge roar, and that just kind of stuck with me, and fell in love ever since. But my favourite memory is, well, I've got two. They both involve Wembley. One of them we lost, but we took the lead against Man City in the 2014 League Cup final. Yeah, and went in 1-0 up at half time. And I was there with my dad, who'd flown over from Sicily, and to see a Sunderland score a goal at Wembley in a cup final, and to have that kind of hope and expectation and going into half time was just unbeatable, I think.
Amazing.
Until we beat Wickham in the League One playoff final a couple of years ago. I was there with my two sons and a couple of my other family members, and that was just fantastic. To finally see us win at Wembley after so many years of just being beat every time.
Yeah, amazing.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, I can imagine the pinnacle, isn't it, as a fan? I can see that kind of thing, especially I would say, and this is not trying to be disrespectful, but when you know that the club has history of doing so well and has then struggled since, and then you come back the other way, and it's
we've been awful for years. Ever since, I mean, up until we used to hold the record for having the longest amount of time spent in the top flight until we got relegated in I think it was 1954 something, for irregular bank payments, under the table bank payments. It was between Sunderland and Arsenal. But yeah, we've just been up and down ever since.
Oh, there we go.
I know.
Where does the beach ball incident rank on one of your favourite moments? Because it's still one of my favourite moments. One of the bizarrest goals you've seen.
It was funny. It was funny, and I like Darren Bent. It was a shame that he went to Villa. Capello told him that if he wanted England games, he had to move to a bigger club. So it was a real shame that was a good team we had then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and one other memory I can think of is the Canio knee sliding in his suit. Was that against Newcastle? Maybe, am I imagining that?
That was one of the 6 in a row games that we won against them. Yeah, it was that was 3-0 at their place. Fantastic.
Yeah,
I really wanted it to work out for him, but I think he was just a bit too mad and a bit too strict at the time, and we had a few players in there that made it difficult for him, and he wasn't quite up to the job. But everything he spoke about, he wanted to improve the whole standards of the team from top to bottom, not just the playing side, the whole club. And it just didn't happen. So he had to go.
What do you think of them at the moment then? Where are you sat with the current team?
We are playing the best football I've seen us play ever.
Wow.
We've got a young team that are really exciting and that just go out and play and have fun. And you can tell that by the way they play. We've scored some fantastic goals. We've got a coach in Tony Mowbray who encourages that, and I was a bit unsure about him when he first started because I'd seen him at like West Brom and the Borough and that, and it didn't really sort of strike me as a particularly good manager, a good coach. But since he came in after we got left in the lurch by Alex Neil, it's good, quick, fast football, like good passing football with some quality team goals. Yeah, okay. We're still mid-table championship. It's not too bad to watch if we do lose because we know that we're going to go out and try and play football. We're nowhere near ready enough to get promoted yet.
Yeah, fair enough. But it's always good to see your team when you know you're comfortable, at least for now, to see your team playing good football, isn't it?
Yeah, especially after some of the awful stuff we've seen over the last few years.
Yeah, fair enough. What do you think of little Job then? He's got to be.
There's not little about him. He's giant.
Yeah. I say little just because he's a young guy.
He's quality. He's you wouldn't think he's a 17-year-old. He controls the middle of the pitch and he's got such a strong, mature head on him. I think the whole family have done really well to keep them both really grounded.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll do well to keep a hold of him.
Yeah, I was gonna say with his big brother in Madrid, it's like scoring every day now. Basically, it seems every game. So.
He's a machine, isn't he? Absolute machine.
Unreal.
Yeah. Well, I was saying to you guys in the chat, I mean, he's absolutely phenomenal, but it's the hype in it that's going to surround him. Still such a young man, and it'll be the same with Job, I'm sure. Just like you don't want that to just drift, get to the heads. I to be fair, considering how mature they both seem, you would hope that that's not going to be the case at all. So
yeah, I definitely get the feeling he's different. He's different, cut from different cloth, I think.
Yeah, our director of football, Christian Speakman, was the one who brought them both through Birmingham City's books, and is a close friend of the Bellingham family. And I think that was one of the draws for Job coming to Sunderland. And I think as long as he's there and we are competing, I think we'll see him play a few games for us. I don't think I'd be advised to move on to anywhere too big too soon.
Yeah.
Nice.
Amazing. I do want to ask you, I mean, Jack, you had this listed, but the Sunderland Till I Die kind of documentary, I haven't watched it, admittedly, but would you say that's, I mean, I imagine for yourself, you must have loved that. I mean, is it close representation of what you know to the club to be, or is it quite revealing? I have to admit, I haven't watched it, so I'm kind of...
It was infuriating.
Okay.
It showed the passion of the fans really well.
Yeah.
Definitely. What it also showed up was the absolute chances and robbers that were in charge of the club. First of all, in the Championship, when we had the American owner who was trying to sell the club, he had a chief executive called Martin Bain, who'd come from Rangers, and they were paying stupid money. I think about kind of Leeds under Peter Ridsdale, that kind of just throwing money at anything, just whatever they can to keep in the Premier League. It didn't work, and then they appointed a couple of clowns as Phil Parkinson as manager. Oh no, it wasn't. Was it him? No, it wasn't him. That was the new owners. Who was it? It was the I've tried to get rid of it out of my head because it was so bad. He managed Leeds at one point as well. I think it was an goalkeeper. We had Chris Coleman as well, and just we had successive relegations, and it just, that whole series was meant to be to watch us bounce back up to the Premier League, and it just went the complete opposite way. And then we got bought out by Stuart Donald from Eastleigh and his mate Charlie Methven, who put all their, or what little money they had, they banked on us getting promoted straight back up and making a quick sale. They weren't expecting us to languish in League One. He's now Methven's now bought Charlton, so poor them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, good series. Had to watch it through like fingers over my eyes.
Yeah.
But it also showed up. I'd say Sunderland's worst ever signing, and that was I feel like I'm swearing saying his name though, Jack Rodwell.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, even I know that.
Stealing a living, absolutely stealing a living. And I've watched videos. Someone's done a compilation video of him. He actually hides on the pitch. So we'll have the ball and he'll go and get himself marked so that he's not in a position to receive the ball.
Madness.
It was
terrible.
Awful.
Terrible.
Yeah.
You also had the drama of the Will Griggs signing, didn't you? That was relatively embarrassing, I think, on the chairman's part, whoever was negotiating it, because I think it got to a point, it was like, no, we're not spending that. And then 2 minutes later, he's back on the phone. And I think Wigan knew that they could absolutely rob you blind. And not that he wasn't any good, but Wigan certainly had you on the hook and played the game well. And you ended up spending a serious amount of money on him, didn't you? By the end of it, the negotiations.
4 million for a League One player. They saw us coming. They just showed how naive these new owners were, and that they'd never negotiate any sort of serious football transfers. Why they didn't get proper football men involved to help them with that, I do not know. He wanted a marquee signing, I think, and not only that, everyone knew that we still had parachute payments coming down from the Premier League, so they could name the price basically.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the new owners are doing things a bit more organically, and we're making really good business with transfers at the moment.
Yeah, steady progress as well.
Yeah,
which is what you want, isn't it? Really.
Yeah,
I'd highly recommend the documentary, Josh. Definitely, I know.
Yeah, no, I will watch it. I just realised in prep for this that I haven't actually seen it, which is terrible.
No, mate,
we've got a diehard Sunderland fan on. I just
it's very good.
It's on my list, unfortunately, of many things that I need to watch. So
yeah,
it's the only one of those kinds that I've watched. I've not watched the Spurs one or the Man City one or anything like that. I've heard they're all really good as well.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I've been impressed by all of them. Spurs was hugely entertaining because of the Mourinho situation. Man City was fascinating because you get to see all of these people that say Pep ain't a coach. He just gets given lots of money in the best teams. You see the way that he behaves with players and how he manages players, and then you get to see Arteta in his first proper role at Arsenal and how he deals with the Aubameyang situation and everything else around it as well. So I love them, especially when it's your own team. I love the behind the curtain kind of feel about it, more information, more detail than you're ever going to get.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, if you don't mind, we'll move on to your Man v Fat stuff then, Tim. So,
yeah, sure.
If you don't mind, just because I actually don't know this as well. How did you get involved in Man v Fat? When was it, and how did you get started? Where did you find it?
So I joined up initially. I think it was last summer, maybe this end of last spring or the start of last summer, around about that sort of time. By a player who's having a bit of a break at the moment, Sean Madden. He's a mate of mine from working together.
Yeah.
And he said, look, I'm doing this thing. You should come and play. So I joined up, and I was actually the first team I was in was the Greens. Way back at the start when it was I think it was season 3 of the first team. The first team allocation, is that right, Jack? Because I was in your team, wasn't it?
Super Greens, me, Ben, you, Sean,
Warren.
Is that the one where you had like the gold letters on the back?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
So I've seen the shirt because I've seen Tom wearing it.
Tom. Yeah, that's right. Tom was in it as well, wasn't it? Yeah. So
he was. Yeah.
Tom Ramsey, you, Warren,
Sonny maybe Ben, as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Aidan as well.
Yep, Aidan. Yeah. He was in the Greens again last season.
It was all Ben and his merry men, basically, wasn't it? So
yeah.
I think Ben invited Sean, and then obviously Sean came with you. But yeah, it's what a team that was.
So I joined, I think there was 2 games left of the season and then into the cup games. Started really well, doing my usual calorie count thing. Then there was a team shake-up, got put into the Reds. Won that first season, I think, Jack, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Started the second season, and at this point I'd had child number 3, and my wife was going back to work, so she works Friday nights, and I had to stop because we needed someone to look after Lytton.
Yeah.
And my plan was, instead of playing football, I'll join the gym, and if I go pure gym, I can go at any real time. I put on all the weight I'd lost and more, and ended up getting up to about, I think I was 19 stone in the middle of April early this year. I think I'd put on maybe 2.5, 3 stone maybe. And this summer's got to change here. I joined back up with Man vs Fat. Joined your team, Josh.
Yes,
again,
indeed. Yes, I remember.
Last was, I think it was the last few games of this season in the Yellows.
Yeah.
And started really well again. Get my 5% quite quickly, and then I think I hit my 10% the very last game of the very last cup game. There was the team shake-up again, and I think the team shake-up started around about, I think it was the start of the summer, and every year I usually am able to lose a bit of weight before the summer, but then we have a series of birthdays that come from June onwards, and it's hard to maintain it. Barbecues, lots of beer, all that sort of stuff. So my first season with Greens was again starting well, but then I ended up having a holiday in Sicily, my birthday. So I think at the end of last season, I finished maybe a kilo lighter than what I started. So I hadn't really lost a lot. But then I knew going into this season, I had no distractions other than Christmas. So I made it my goal to win top scorer and to win last man standing.
Yeah.
So I'm laying the gauntlet out for anyone else to challenge me to win that.
Good fucking luck to him as well.
I know Rav's very close. He's only, I think, 0.01% away from me in total body weight loss this season, and he's 3 points behind, and that's a percentage which he's very close to hitting. So it's going to be very tight, and we're pushing each other all the way.
He's super consistent as well, isn't he, Rav?
Yeah, and that's one of the many reasons why Greens are doing so well this season, because we're all pushing each other really far.
Yeah.
The group chat's very active. Everyone plays a good part in it.
Yeah, amazing, brilliant. I know I'm speaking to Mike, and he won't mind me saying this. Last season, you struggled a bit last season as a team, didn't you? Generally speaking.
Yeah, I think
you felt a bit disheartened, and there was a little bit of but this season again, just bounce back. It shows just,
Well, there was a lot of holidays and absences and everything last season, and that you can never get any consistency going. And I was injured quite a bit as well, and I found I almost use it as an excuse to not have to worry about what I was eating if I was injured, because I knew I didn't have to weigh in.
Yeah.
That's now changed. I've been injured again this season, but I've still made sure that I'm eating right and coming down to weigh in, and even if I have to just play and go for a bit.
Yeah.
And that's what's changed. My mindset's changed completely. I've set myself the goal, and I know what I have to do to get there. And what's worked for me has been religious calorie counting.
Yeah.
I use an app called My Fat Secret, and I swear by it. It's really good calorie counting and fitness tracking app, and it's got a huge library of products and their calories and the macros within that as well, so you can see how much fat you're eating, how much protein you're eating, and what the carbs are. And it's almost like a Facebook for fatties, so you can follow your mates and you can see what's on their food diary, and people put posts on about what they're eating or other stuff as well, not necessarily food related. It's one big giant food support network, and it's not just for people losing weight, it's people who are trying to gain weight as well. You basically set your profile up with what your goals are and what you want to do, and it will give you your recommended daily intake of calories. And basically what I try to do, I do the 16-8 intermittent fasting Monday to Friday without fail. So I will eat all my food within an 8-hour window, and then once that's finished, I won't eat again for another 16 hours. And I've found the best time that works for me is if I'm finished all my food by 6:30 on an evening, I can then eat again 10:30 the next day.
Yeah. It's funny you say about that window, because someone was talking to me about intermittent fasting. I think I just do it naturally. I've always done it naturally because breakfast is I'm not very comfortable with breakfast. So mine's just shifted slightly later in the day than yourself.
Yeah.
It's like usually it's like midday to 8 kind of thing. So it's strange because actually when you think about it, normally it's not actually a big stretch for most people in terms of hours, is it? People think 16 hours without eating, but generally average person could probably go 12 hours without eating normally, don't they? Because they'll have dinner, let's just say at a normal time at 6, let's just say 7 o'clock or so. They'll be up at 8 in the morning for breakfast the next day. And it's like, well, that's already 12, 13 hours without actually eating anyway.
Yeah.
So
just to do an extra 4 hours.
Yeah, just stretching it. So
no, I mean when I wasn't fasting but still calorie counting, I was maybe having a pot of porridge in the morning, and that was working. But I thought, actually, it's still 250 calories for a pot of a sensible kind of portion. And I thought, well, if I get rid of that frees up an extra 250 calories for me to have in an 8-hour window during the intermittent fasting period.
Yeah.
And what I do, I combine that with the calorie counting. So for my age, height, and weight at the moment, my recommended daily intake of calories, according to Fat Secret, is around the 2,200, 2,300 mark.
Yeah.
Monday to Friday, I will try and stick to going absolutely no more than 1,500 a day. Usually around between 1,200 and 1,400 calories a day.
Yeah.
And that's still with having 2 main meals. So I'll have a decent lunch, a decent tea, and I get these little kind of low-calorie crisps and snack bars like Skinny Whip or Seabrook do these things like loaded fries, like something a bit like lower calorie chipsticks, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I love crisps, I love chocolate, and that kind of just gives me enough of a little fix that I know that I'm not going to go and buy a big slab of dairy milk and polish that off when I get home. As I've kind of got rid of the weight, it's that's kind of like slowing down. And after hitting 20% on Friday, I got on the scales on, I don't know what day we're on. I got on the scales yesterday, and I didn't have a mad weekend. I tend to have a bit of a day off. I still track, but I have a day off on Saturday where I can have a skinful of beer or have some pizza or whatever.
Yeah.
But it usually doesn't affect me that much because I even out in the week. But yesterday, I weighed myself and I'd put 2.6 kilos on.
Wow.
Since Friday. Wow. And I'd have thought, well, it's probably going to be a lot of it would be water retention and that. But I thought, okay, maybe just the 16-8 and the Monday to Friday calorie isn't going to be enough now that I'm kind of getting to where I want to be. So I've tried something new this week, and it's started well enough. I've done it. Have you heard of the 5 and 2 intermittent fasting?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of combining that with the 60 and 8. So if you don't know what the 5 and 2 is, Josh or anyone listening, it's for 5 days you'll eat whatever you want. Eat normally with not whatever you want, but eat normally within reason. And then for 2 of those days, doesn't matter whether they're together or separate, men can have between 500 and 600 calories for the entire day.
Okay.
So
I see. Yeah. Okay.
it sounds quite drastic, and I think if I'd have tried that when I'd just started intermittent fasting, I'd have really struggled. But I did that yesterday, and I had as the calorie counted cottage pie, which was 240 calories for me lunch, and then the Asda calorie counted barbecue chicken ready meal thing, which is sweet potato, chicken, onions, peppers, all in like this kind of barbecue marinade sauce thing. So that was I had in total about 500 calories for the day, and got on the scales this morning, and over a kilo of that 2.6 had already come off overnight. So
Yeah.
hopefully I went back to eating normally today. So I think today I've had about 1,400 calories, and we'll see what happens on Friday. I was just conscious of losing so much last week to hit the 20%. So even just a 0.1 loss this Friday,
Yeah.
I'd be happy with, because then I'm just kind of still going in the right direction.
Yeah. Absolutely. I guess it kind of leads on to what kind of struggles have you had? Because you've been pretty smooth sailing this side of, well, this season, or seemingly. But I imagine, as you said, you've had struggles in the summer in particular. But have you found anything in particular that's maybe it's, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right word, but you struggle with motivation or anything like that?
You see, I've never really classed it as me struggling with my weight.
Okay.
It's a weird one. As a kid, I played every sport going, and anything I could, I played right up until I went to uni. Rugby team, cricket team, football, badminton, tennis, the lot. Played the lot, and I had an uncle who was a GP, and he said to me, "You need to stop eating so much." I'm like, why? I'm fine. He's like, yeah, but you play all this sport. Once you stop all that, you'll get fat. I didn't believe him.
Yeah.
And of course, went to uni, discovered the wonder of kebabs and beer, and yeah, kind of steadily put weight on. But it's a weird one with my physique. I can put over a stone on without realizing, because it just goes everywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't like sit in one particular place. I know some people get like a massive belly, or they get elsewhere, but mine kind of just evenly goes everywhere. So it kind of just creeps up on me, and I realize, oh yeah, nothing fits me now. And I go on the scales. I was shocked that I got up to 19 stone in the middle of April. I thought, right, yeah, okay, maybe I didn't think I was struggling, but now I do. Added to the fact that I've got a 16-year-old, 14-year-old, and a 16-month-old. It's like, I need to be better for them. I need to be set a good example for them. And actually, I want to be able to have the energy and the fitness to be able to mess around with them and to go and play footy with them.
Yeah.
So that was the motivation for that. And I knew I could do it, because I've lost weight before, and I think my issue is I'm guilty for a binge. I love a good binge.
Yeah.
It's being able to have the binge and then make the right sacrifices after that to get back in check.
Okay. Yeah. So do you not kind of stop yourself from the binge so much, or at least the binge is slightly lighter, slightly less frequent, that kind of thing? Or do you just cut it out now?
Usually just on a Saturday.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, Saturdays, because we've played on the Friday night, I'll still not eat anything until after, like, around about dinner time on the Saturday afternoon. And then I'll have something small for me dinner, and then tea times where I really, sorry, I'll translate. I won't have anything for me. I'll wait till lunchtime.
Yeah.
Lunchtime.
I'll wait till lunchtime before I eat anything, and then dinner it'll be where my wife and I have a treat, and we'll have a real good go at something. And
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious because it sounds quite similar to mine, but I think maybe I'm just not as religiously caught up with all the calories. I do actually have Fat Secret as an app. I do, just like MyFitnessPal on the same level. I do actually have them, and this week in particular, I have actually started tracking through there. I did do it with MyFitnessPal for a small period of time as well. But as I've said before, I'm not a religious calorie counter, but I do feel like I need to do something different to change it. And I think obviously that seems like the most obvious thing.
to me, it's simple maths. If you're burning more than what you're consuming, you will lose weight.
Yeah.
Okay, some people will do it slower or faster than others, and that just comes down to metabolism. But it's the science doesn't lie unless you've got some condition or medication which might prevent that. It's pretty much guaranteed that you're pretty much guaranteed that if you are burning more than you're consuming, you will lose weight. And I could only do that if I religiously logged my calories, because I needed to know how much I was eating.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, before, when I first started doing it, I would weigh out how much pasta I'm having. I'd weigh out how much rice I'm having. I'd weigh everything and write it in a recipe book to know exactly how much I'm having. Now I've got a general idea of it.
Yeah.
So I pretty much know how much is in things, and you can find things in the library which, okay, it might not be exactly what you've had, but you can make a good guess as to you're in the right kind of ballpark. And that just gives, I always over egg it as well, so that I know that I'm definitely not going over. So I'm predominantly office based with my job. So it means I can prepare quite well for my week's worth of food. And we my wife and I meal plan anyway. So I know at the start of every day what's in my bait box and what I'm going to have for my tea when I get in. So I log all that. I use the desktop version of Fat Secret more than I use the app. I only use the app when I'm out and about, and I know I need to put something in, otherwise I'll forget about it. So I've got it in front of me at work, and I've already put in everything I think I'm going to eat for the day in front of me. So I know where I stand with calories.
Yeah.
And today, for instance, I'd put all my food in, and I think it worked out at something like 1,100 calories. And someone had brought a pack of chocolate hobnobs in at work. And I thought, oh, well, okay. If I'm aiming for kind of no more than 1,400, I've had 1,100. 87 calories in a chocolate hobnob.
Yeah.
I can afford to have one of them.
Yeah.
And that's what it allows me to do. So I try and get it all organised at the start of the day. I don't actually do a lot of exercise. The walking, I'll go a few weeks without being able to get out for a walk. It's just this week and last week I was able to get out a fair bit. The only exercise up until recently has been football.
Yeah, okay.
I've started. I bought a press up board because with me losing weight, I've realised that I've got really narrow shoulders, and my eldest son is mad on the gym, and he's twice the size of me, but all muscle. So I thought I'd quite like to have bigger shoulders. So he's been helping me with that. How that's going to affect the weight loss, I don't know as well, because I'll be putting muscle mass on. But should still be burning fat anyway. So
and your exercise calorie burn will give you a greater deficit, I presume.
Yeah, and also the muscle that you have on is going to burn more calories just sedentary.
Yeah,
when you have more muscle. So
it does allow it when you set your recommended daily intake. It asks you whether you are what your lifestyle is, whether it's sedentary,
Yeah.
low active, mid active, or very active. And I always put sedentary because it gives you less calories.
Yeah.
Right.
And then if I'm doing exercise, then I know
It's
that
a bonus.
it's going to be extra burn. So
yeah, fair enough. Wow, sounds amazing. I know you've done absolutely amazing, and I also know I've done it in spurts. I know you had that time off, but once you've come back, I know you did amazing with the yellows, and then back again with the greens. So
I think the biggest change is getting back to a weight now, which I haven't probably been for about 5 years, and I've thrown loads of clothes out, like emptied the wardrobe.
Love that though.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I do not want to go back there.
Yeah.
And the only reason I will go back there is through laziness or
Just lack of discipline, maybe.
that's the one. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can't really say much else. It's amazing, and to watch it in person as well, because I've seen it come off you obviously for the last 6 months since I've seen you at the league anyway, and so it is really noticeable. It's really noticeable.
Definitely.
Cheers.
Yeah, and on the pitch as well, I've noticed. I mean, I'm not a very quick guy, but you get the best of me all the time. So
That I'm going to disagree with there, Josh. Actually, because I'm surprised at how I don't. I can maybe dance past you, but you definitely make up the ground once I've gone past you. You're deceivingly quick.
He is, yeah. There's a few quick, sneaky ones. Adam's the same.
Yeah, Adam.
Adam's not
He's
anymore.
lightning.
Everybody knows Adam is now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway, lads, if you're happy, Tim, thank you very much for that on the weight loss. I know the amount of effort and discipline and motivation it's taken. So
I also couldn't have done it without help from the Greens and Steve as well. Every one of the Greens, from Alex, Dave, Mark, Mike, Eddie, Rav, Scott, all of us just pushing each other all the way. Everyone vocal on the chat. Check in on Monday morning. Tell us the goals, how the weekend's been, and if someone's doing something different, or if someone's done well, how have you done it? That sort of thing.
Yeah, amazing.
That's really good to hear.
I mean, it's proven by not only your league position, but also just, we said in the roundup, pardon me, 3 out of the last 4 weeks, 100% loss rate for all of you. So it's just
that's how I know they're packing a few last man standings, Josh. I'm sure there's a few up there.
Oh yeah, I know it's like most of the team, most if not all the team. I know it is. Absolutely fair play, and to yourself personally, Tim, just amazing.
Thank you.
Enough.
Really good, mate.
If you don't mind, then we'll move on to some actual footy ball. If you want to chat some footy ball. I don't. We're talking. We want to chat championship as you're here, Tim. Something that I am not personally very familiar with. I will really admit.
2 seasons out of it, and already you've just forgotten about it completely, have you?
Yeah, it's beneath us.
Well, not even 2 seasons, is it? It's a season and a half.
This is second season for Bournemouth.
No, but we've had plenty of seasons there already. Bounce straight back. It's fine. It was a given.
I love the championship. Admittedly, I don't watch as much of it now that Bournemouth aren't in it. That's definite. But it's always, especially when the playoffs come around, it's a bit of a glory supporter with it, and on the hard yards, like I'm sure Tim has, watching the midweek 2-1 losses to Huddersfield and things like that. But when it comes around to playoffs, it's captivating, and it's such a good league, and it's really really enjoyable. So I'm keen to hear your opinion on it, Tim.
Yeah, having spent 4 years out of it from beneath it, that was where we were aiming to be, and glad we got there. And actually, it's a good league, decent teams in there with decent grounds to go to, and it's a really hard league to get out of, because anyone could beat anyone, and I feel it's a lot more competitive than the Premier League. You pretty much know who's going to win most weeks in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean,
although
my ACCA bets would tell you that's incorrect.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, I was just looking down the table, and there's so many amazing clubs, huge clubs in the Championship, aren't there? Really, historically and otherwise. Just I think I remember saying this in one of the pods early on before the season started, how the Championship looked like a genuinely probably the most competitive league in England at the time, just by eyeballing the names without any real understanding. But
The top two are running away with it a bit though.
yeah,
So Leicester, it was always going to happen.
yes,
Ipswich are a big surprise. They've only just been promoted from League One, but they play fantastic football.
Yeah.
Really, really good football.
Mm.
And then Southampton and Leeds had a bit of a slow start, but they're showing that, yeah, they're going to be challenging again. It's kind of something that we touched on earlier, boys, about is the gulf getting bigger, or
Yeah.
is it narrowing between the Premier League and the Championship? Because Burnley won the league at a canter last season, and I thought with your man in charge from Man City, they'd do quite well.
Yeah,
But they've struggled.
they're finding it. I think it's their style. That's what they're finding it more difficult. I think I would say, just to generally, I think I said this in a few early pods, but I actually thought the at least if you look at the last decade, it's actually got closer. I thought it's been close because you've seen more and more Championship teams who've come up and stay up.
Yeah.
And so I always thought, like, I don't know, recent example, I say Fulham, for example, like last season, they're there and they stay there. I think not so long ago, people like
Brighton.
Brentford and that, and yeah, exactly, Brighton, Brentford, people like that are thereabouts now, and have been for a few years. I know Bournemouth's not the best example, really, but they were obviously in the league for a few seasons and then dropped back down and now back up. And so
I'd say you need to be like I'd say 5 seasons is established to be an established Premier League team. Anything under that, your first aim is still staying in the league.
The other problem you've got with it as well is Bournemouth did that 5 years, so they got past that kind of second season syndrome that often hits teams. And Bournemouth did the 5 years for what was really important, and they were lucky to do it in the year they did it because of the COVID shit and no fans or whatever. But to get back, you've got to get back into the Premier League after a couple of years, or you find yourself in a real dogfight with teams. And it's watching so much the Premier League and focusing so much on that league, you kind of forget that 3 good teams go down every season, and very rarely do those 3 good teams go straight back up. So you're adding, the quality is continuously improving, and that's where, if we were to ever get rid of the pyramid, which I believe would be a massive mistake, that's where the pyramid is fed, and that's how that helps. And obviously shit rolls downhill. It happens to then League One and then League Two and so forth. But what's really important is you don't find yourselves, sadly, like Sunderland did, teams like Pompey. If you look at how long they've spent in League One now, I know they're doing well this season, but they missed that 2-year window, that really important 2-year window after the Premier League relegation, and you find yourselves in real difficulty. So it's not just, you referenced the parachute payments earlier. Those parachute payments really, really help you in that time and get you that opportunity to bounce back. I know Norwich were up and down like a yo-yo for a long time, and that was surviving on parachute payments and being able to beat the league. And people go, is that because of the goal for quality in the league? And I don't believe it is. It's because of the money. And they then don't lose the quality or the long-term contracted players that nobody wants to pay what they were paying them, because they have those parachute payments to see them through on those expensive contracts. And then when they bounce back, they can then build again. It's a dangerous spiral to not fall in that. It's a dangerous spiral to fall into. And I'm sure you'd agree Sunderland certainly fell foul of that, and we're out in the wilderness for quite some time through those difficult times that we all saw on the documentary.
That came off the back of season after season chucking money at managers to keep us up every season. And I think before the season we went down, I think 5 or 6 seasons in a row up to that, out of the 10-year stay that we had, we were fighting for relegation in every single one of those seasons. And we'd sacked a manager each season, and the new manager coming and kept us up, and it just wasn't sustainable. But I think there's 2 types of club that use the parachute payments in different ways. The likes of, I think, Villa did it, Leicester have done it, a few others have done it, where they know that they want an immediate return, so they will chuck all of that money straight into getting new players and then walk the league. But then some of the other clubs, and I think Luton will be one of these, and I think the chairman's already come out and said it when they got promoted, they're going to go and enjoy the day in the sun. If they get relegated, they're a much richer club for it, and they won't then spunk that money when they're in the Championship again on trying to get there. They'll use that money to just keep the club going.
Yeah. So Tim, from your expert Championship knowledge, who would you say are the teams to watch in the next, say, 5 years, coming seasons, that you think have a real shot of getting themselves up the Championship and then into the Prem, and then potentially, I don't suppose you know enough. I don't know.
No, it's always the ones that have come down that are going to threaten to go back up. Well, most of the time anyway. Yeah. So obviously Leicester, Leeds, Southampton are going to be up there. There's been a few teams that have hung around the playoffs the last few years, which have threatened to get up, and Blackburn, Middlesbrough, Preston, even like Millwall and likes.
West Brom as well.
Yeah, they've had a bit of a resurgence recently.
One thing, I've just looked at the Championship table. So at the top 4, you've just hit nail on the head. Out the top 4, the 3 that got promoted, relegated, are in the top 4. So you got 4 Fat Boys. You got Saints on 34, Leeds on 35, then a big jump to Ipswich on 42, which I know that you and I spoke about earlier, and you have reference in here and how good they're doing. And then Leicester 4-3, and all 3 of the promoted teams, just looking today, did win tonight as well. So Saints 1-0, Leeds 3-1, and Leicester drew. Leicester drew with Sheffield Wednesday. That's a bit of a slip up there. I know that they've had a bit of dip in form, but they'll be absolutely fine. The team that they've got, the promoted teams are struggling from Ipswich. I think. Sheffield. Who went to work? Yeah, Sheffield Wednesday are struggling, and they came up in the most dramatic of terms, didn't they? Beating Peterborough, turning that game around in the semi-final of the playoffs. I think they were 4-0 down, weren't they, after the first leg, and turned it around and got promoted. And then Darren Moore got sacked, didn't he? Did it all and got sacked, which was mental. So it's
the bottom of the league.
Yeah. One team I always keep an eye out for is Bristol City. Obviously, Bournemouth have taken had their 2 best players in Anton Semenyo and Alex Scott, but they seem to have a pretty good development. That southwest area does produce some good players. I think Ethan Ampadu came from Bristol City as well, I want to say. The sale of him built their training ground, and it kind of shows how important they are to the rest, or League 1, League 2 Championship teams are in feeding, and the money that they get for those academy graduates really become vital cash that hasn't cost them a transfer fee in the first place, if that makes sense.
They've only really got Plymouth competing for players around that kind of Devon, Somerset area, haven't they? So
they've come on well. They got promoted. Talking bollocks, didn't they? They got promoted last season, and they
beat us at the weekend.
They're doing, I've noticed they're doing really well. You've had a bit of a rough turn. As soon as you said about coming on, your team are letting you down. And just looking, QPR are still struggling as well, though, aren't they? They're 22nd. I think they had a bit of a bonkers game last night where they ended up winning, but I'm sure Ben's not going to want to see them drop to League 1. I'm sure they won't, but they're cutting themselves adrift. They're 6 points behind Huddersfield, especially after them winning tonight. Excellent.
It's an interesting league, though, isn't it? I would be interested to know how many of the Championship teams were or have been a Premier League team at least once in the. Anyway, I should really watch more of the Championship. Is basically what I'm getting from this. When I get a chance. So
it's on after match of the day on a Sunday morning.
Channel 5 had them
or
also.
Channel 5, I think. Yeah, one of the two.
Whilst we're on football topics, Josh, did you want to have a little chat about the results this evening and how your team got on this evening? I think it's been
really.
a hot topic in the chat.
Not really.
But you are so level-headed with it. You often, it is you, but sometimes you're so level-headed and so understanding of it. I sit there and go, oh, fucking hell, Josh, just get angry about something. You just won't. I love it about you.
Well, I am angry about the fact that much was made in the summer about how absolutely terrible David De Gea is, and now they're shipping goals for fun, and Andre Onana makes mistakes every game, it seems. Yeah. I know it's a new keeper, so you have to bat him in, blah, 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 and he's had a new back four most weeks. But it's just frustrating, and now that it's just seeing all people, it's mainly social media that triggers me, when people harp on one thing and then aren't willing to backtrack when they're wrong, kind of thing. It's just like, it wasn't the priority position. I expect David De Gea to save most of or not make the same mistakes that Onana's made. He won the Golden Glove for a reason last year, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Anyway.
You think about it, actually, there's two parts to that. And I know that Ramsdale's my favourite subject. But if you look at what's happened to those Golden Glove and the player that got voted by the rest of the players as the best keeper in the league last year, both find themselves either on the bench or without a team.
Yeah, just the way.
What's wrong with a little bit of loyalty?
Modern football.
What's that word you just said there, Jack?
Loyalty.
Loyalty in modern football.
Yeah, it doesn't happen, does it? Really? No.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway, but yes, your team. Yes, I know, smashed it. Was it 6-0?
Yeah, no, I wasn't.
Yeah. Of course you were. Yeah.
Which Champions League stuff?
Which one of your teams?
Yeah. Which one of your teams? Yeah, I knew you were going to come on to this, Tim.
Well, let's dive into that. It's
a good segue. Let's use it. Because it just baffles me. I'd like it explained.
Yeah,
I'm not ripping you. I just
no.
Try and explain to me how you're able to support two teams, and not just two teams in the same division.
I'm happy to go first if you want, Josh.
Go on.
So I can give an idea of where my support for both teams come from, if that kind of gives you the background story and enough about it. So with Arsenal, I just copied my older brother, and that's as simple as it was. I just followed what he was doing and who he supported and supported them. That being said, I fell in love with the club. I used to be a labourer when I was at college doing bricklaying and plastering and whatever else, and my boss is still a big Arsenal fan and would go up, and occasionally he would say, can get an extra ticket, did you fancy coming? And there was my first experience. I never got to go to Highbury, but I got my first experience at the Emirates was a Champions League night under the lights, and I was an Arsenal fan anyway. I'd already got loads of the shirts and watched them week in, week out, and loved everything about them. Never really had a chance to go, and I've been a lot of time since. And I'm not I resent armchair fans to a certain level.
That's probably what you call me, I guess. Yeah, go on.
Well, you said it, not me. But what I think in my head is that I support them, and I love them, and they mean an awful lot to me, and they unfortunately dictate my mood. With Bournemouth, it's more of a wanting the local team to do well and passionate about them doing well. I do also obviously have the affiliation with Jordan working there since the age of 16. And you think about how long ago that was, and you say he'd been there 13 years. You think about where Bournemouth were at that time. So yeah, my support has been mainly around wanting the club to do well for my brother, but I do go to games when I can. I'm not a season ticket holder or anything at either club. I wish I was.
Who do you support when they play each other?
That's a tricky one. There's been a few. That's a question that's often asked, and I get mocked about. And of recent, it's dependent on how I want both of them to do well. Last year, again, a story I probably told on the pod before, but I say it again, that mad game that Arsenal beat Bournemouth 3-2, I was in the away end with my son, and we were undercover gooners that day. I was desperate to Arsenal win that day. I don't want them to batter them. I would have been happy with a boring 1-0. It is really difficult. So if it came to something like last game of the season, Bournemouth and Arsenal playing each other, and Arsenal needed to win to get Champions League football, and Bournemouth needed to win to stay in the league, I wouldn't be able to tell you which I'd prefer. If it was Arsenal to win the league and Bournemouth to get relegated, I would pick Arsenal to win the league.
I was just going to ask you that. The first thing you said was Champions League. I was like, that just says everything.
As a cop out, wouldn't it?
To me, that's an easy one.
And that's really it. And I love going to watch them, and I can see why people struggle to understand how you support two teams. But I think that's where I am with it, really, and I don't give a toss what people say anyway.
Well, mine's a much more simple answer, I think. Really, I was indoctrinated as a kid for Man United. And then when I grew my own conscience and head, I moved away from it slightly. Now, I think I'm just a football fan. I know that sounds really basic, but I'm not like a hardcore fan. Like I just like watching football. And Man United was always my dad's team and my dad's team, and et cetera, et cetera. And that's all it was when I was a kid, all the way up until I was, in my late teens. It was Manchester United, everything. Obviously, they're winning everything at the time. And then from there, when I got a chance to actually go, when I want to go to grounds and see football, well, where could I go? Well, I live in Bournemouth. I'm going to go watch Bournemouth play, So I'm going to see Bournemouth all the time. So that's really kind of where it grew from there. Just the love of watching live football and going to see a local team. And then that just gets to you over years and years and years of you getting involved.
I get that, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I watched as many games as both teams as possible. I think it's head versus heart kind of thing on a silly way. I think it's just a case of my location versus the team that I grew up supporting. So yeah, that's all I see it as, really. It is strange. I do understand it, and I do understand the argument for why you support both. But I think it's kind of Bournemouth's been much more of a steady, as I've got much more involved and I'm close locally to the club and got more interest in their history and going to actually see games. And Man United was very much my dad and my family. Like, that's what it was, and that's what I grew up with. So
yeah, no, I get that. I just thought maybe it's with you, Josh, what you just said there. I don't know, maybe I'm looking at a bit more of a tribal thing. But if I'd have started leaning towards Bournemouth, I think that'd have been right. I'm Bournemouth now, and Man United have been forgotten about.
Yeah, I get that, but it's hard when it's 15 years of my childhood with my dad.
Yeah,
and all my memories of Man United. All my memories of Man United with my dad, and it's like I'm not going to forget that anytime soon, And of course,
you've won stuff that, haven't you?
So.
Yeah,
success as well, obviously.
Sharing those wins with your dad, that's massive.
Yeah. I stuck with Arsenal through the shit times, through the really difficult times and things like that.
Through what?
Well, if you look how bad it was, mate, we used to have Marion Shamak as a striker, mate. That's how bad things were.
Oh God, Jesus! You're talking about Arsenal like bad times. It's like me turning around and saying Man United have had shit times. Well, in the context of 30 years of continued success, yes, of course it's shit times. In the context of the entire Football League pyramid, it's not.
It's all relative. It's all relative.
I just said one of my favourite Sunderland memories is of us losing a game. that puts it into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, there you go. That's that bit covered. Is there anything else you wanted to cover, boys?
Well, I wouldn't mind doing 2 minutes of fantasy football because we haven't covered it.
It's been a little while, isn't it?
Three weeks or so, and I've had a few people ask me, "Well, when are you going to cover it?" They're probably going to be a little disappointed with this week's coverage because
Can you just add your theme tune in here?
Of course, I will. Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, I mean, the last couple of weeks, from a fantasy perspective, have been pretty difficult for most teams. So you'll probably look at your score and go, "Oh, that was crap." No high scores. I think one of them was like 30 points was a good score.
Oh yeah.
So it's been pretty terrible. And last week, all the players and I say all the players, quite a few players were playing each other. So, like Villa playing Spurs, for example. So, Liverpool, City, things like that. So, but that's okay. It's just relative to everyone else. So I wouldn't look at your score too much. It's still loads and loads of weeks to go. The main thing is to make sure you're not knee-jerking transfers all the time.
I spend points every week.
Well, I used to do that until I got more involved in it, because ultimately it's points is the goal. And if you're using points just to make a transfer that you're not sure is going to be the best thing, is generally something you want to avoid. Waiting for news on players is probably a good idea. Over trying to get someone in really quickly. And it really, all you can do is just make the best decision you can based on players' fixtures and their opportunities within the team they play. So, like, for example, is that Gabriel from Arsenal, early on in the season, I was saying on the pod, like, get rid of him because he wasn't getting any game time. But now he's like a kind of a player that I would consider buying, because he's much more nailed in that team. Or
it's another one of Arteta's backtracks, that mate. He seemed desperate to not play him and was forced to, and now he plays him every week.
Exactly. So he's a solid defender in a very good team, and Arsenal have got really good fixtures coming up, or decent ones. So he's an example of how things can change, and so that's how I always say on fantasy. Just look at the fixtures for 3-4 weeks ahead and have a think about who might be good in that team for those fixtures, essentially. In terms of people to think about this week, most people are getting fed up with goalkeepers, but really I wouldn't transfer a goalkeeper unless you felt that you absolutely had to. And if you had to, David Raya, I guess, is a good pick, and Flecken from Brentford, although Flecken has no game in game week 18. Defenders is difficult because there's not loads of great options. Arsenal is the obvious one, so Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, although I guess he won't get quite as many minutes, I think, as the other two.
Yeah, he got subbed off again today at half time. So yeah, I wouldn't bank on Zinchenko.
Yeah. And then they're probably good transfers, either of them.
Yeah.
Pedro Porro, I know Spurs haven't got a good defence, but he's nailed because of their injuries, and he's really attacking for Spurs. Pinnock from Brentford, again, they don't play in game week 18, but they've got really good fixtures and they're a decent team.
I was really impressed by him at the weekend, actually. Really good player.
Yeah. And then, like, Newcastle, if you can afford Trippier, he's great. Otherwise, like, Lascelles. And if you really, really, really want to torture yourself, Slabhead Maguire is probably a good one to get in. Midfielders, obvious ones are Salah. I can't just not have Salah. Son is a good one still. I mean, he should have scored. I mean, people say he should have scored a hat-trick against Villa, but, again, even when they've got injuries, they're still a good team. Saka is a good one. He's probably a really good one to have in. My pick this week, though, is Mbeumo. So from Brentford. Again, they don't play in 18, but he's like everything you want. Like, plays 90 minutes. He's a penalty taker. He's their like most creative attacking player in the team. In a decent attacking team, they've got really good fixtures. Like, it's like the holy grail. So Mbeumo is who I'd prioritise. Palmer from Chelsea. Again, he's on penalties, seems pretty nailed. And their fixtures change pretty soon. Jared Bowen, if he's still fit, although he was out.
He's flying. I've had him from the beginning.
Yeah, he's a really good pick. And then, like, Gordon as well from Newcastle. He's another good pick. And then maybe someone like Raheem Sterling when their fixtures turn. So, again, looking for Chelsea in the near future. Forwards, Watkins, if you don't have him, but most people have him by now. Alexander Isak, he's another one. Now he's fit again. And then King Solanke for Bournemouth. He's actually someone what I would genuinely think about getting in.
Yeah, fair play.
Yeah,
he gets a lot of grief.
He didn't
as
get
well,
any points last week when they put
Sheffield
United.
Yeah, 4 goals did he score?
Yeah,
3 goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, Solanke got me 2 points.
Yes, well,
He actually played really well as well.
yeah, he
I
did.
watched
Yeah,
it.
it's unfortunate, but they're in a good position, and again, Bournemouth haven't got bad fixtures. It's mainly because he's cheap. Like as a forward, if you need someone for a certain price, he's cheap. Like, and he's like again nailed, plays every minute basically. He's on penalties, etc. So
He's 4th highest scorer though.
I know, mad, isn't it? Amazing. Good chance to get a Bournemouth player in the team for
I've got
actually
him.
legitimate reasons.
Yeah, I've got him.
Very good.
Haaland, Alvarez, and Solanke up top.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, to be fair, Alvarez is one I would consider changing soon.
Yeah.
Just because of his minutes. And he's not, well, his minutes are okay, but he's just not getting too much of the opportunities anymore. It is Man
Just
City,
seems to
though,
start, doesn't he? He's always subbed, but he starts.
Yeah. But like someone like Isak or Watkins or someone like that might be a good one. Anyway, that's it, lads.
Excellent. That's been a wonderful use of my evening on my own in the hotel. So I appreciate the company, guys, and thank you everyone again for listening and interacting with us. Keep the feedback coming. We are going to start bringing in a few little bits and pieces with some guests, maybe a little game or two to kind of chat through and help. I think everybody with understanding of where your calories are going and what you're doing. I think Tim's going to help us out with some bits and pieces of that with his encyclopedic knowledge of calories. But unless there's anything else for you two to say, I think that's a wrap for us, and we'll see you all Friday night.
Indeed.
Thanks for having me.
Anybody listening that doesn't know about it, going for a beer Saturday night, George Taps, 8 p.m. Everyone's welcome. Josh, I think you're coming. Tim, can you make it?
Got the kids this weekend.
Oh
no.
You'll be there in spirit. What is your spirit?
Fine.
Vodka in it?
I'll be in spirits at home.
Oh, you're in Hull, are you?
No, at home.
Oh, sorry. That's your fucking accent again then. Right. It's been a good one, lads. I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks a lot,
cheers,
gents.
mate.
Cheerio.